Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. This is a 15-minute odd interview I did on the local news station here in upstate New York, WNBF Radio, with Bob Joseph. You see picture on the left. I'm on the right. The local Democrats, mostly progressives, have a 6-1 majority on city council. It went from a 4-3 Republican council to a 6-1 Democrat council. The problem was, though, the one Republican tied his election. And they tried to finagle him around, get him out. They swore in their own person, and then they swore in the Republican that tied, and then they had the council pick the Republican to replace him. Well, I helped write, and it was there when the ordinance was passed saying that if there's a vacant seat that needs to be appointed, that the local party, in this case Republican committee in the city, would pick the candidate or leave the seat vacant and have an election in a couple of months. They wouldn't do it. They appointed their own Republican, which I call an undocumented Democrat, and then they're going to have a special election this November, another 9 months out, or 8 months out. So this was my reply to the local radio station.
Hey, what's up?
Well, I understand there's an issue with the replacing the council member from the South Side. And there's a lot of back and forth, and I see the decision was made that the council, being the 6 Democrats, would pick the Republican replacement. I was there when it was passed, and I was one of the council members that helped write the ordinance. And that's not what the intention was. Now, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, the word for word, but that is not what the intention was for the council as a whole. That was not the same party as the seat that was being replaced to pick it. I know this is a unique circumstance, being he was the only one. But
so what year was that? What year did that happen?
Well, let's see. I was there from 2007. My second term was 2003, so just trying to reach my memory back, I'm getting old. I'm thinking 2003 was the first year of the second term. That's my recollection. But I know what the intent was, and I was there, and I helped write the darn thing. It was supposed to happen was the party of the vacant seat in question was supposed to go to their committee, and they're supposed to come up with a candidate. Not the council members, the party of the person where the seat was vacant, in this case Republican. Now, it's unique that they tied. Now, let me give you a little example from just happened not too long ago in this county. Don Lepardo and David Lindsay, rest his soul, they tied, if you recall. Remember that?
Yeah, actually, I'd forgotten about it, but now that you mentioned it, I remember.
Well, I know Don a long time. And what happened was they left the seat vacant and had a special election in the middle of February. They didn't wait till the following November. So I think that the council maybe gave the wrong information. When I say the council, I mean the Democrats gave the wrong information to Judge McBride, I believe, was overseeing the case. That was not the intention of that ordinance at all, and I know that I helped write it. I was there.
So what did you think about what the council Democrats did last Friday afternoon? Because Phil Strawn was there, and he, I believe, I haven't spoken with him since Friday's meeting, but I certainly was under the impression he expected that in the aftermath of the judge's ruling that the 6 Democrats on council were going to appoint him to serve until the special election in November.
He had no knowledge of the ordinance that was passed. We call it the Tony Massar ordinance. Tony Massar was going to resign his seat to get a job out of town in labor relations. The Republicans at the time, they were in the majority, hinted they were going to appoint a Republican, so he gave up his job and kept his seat. So then we waited till the next term, which the Democrats had the majority of, which I was at the time, and then we changed it, it was a gentleman's agreement, we made it into an ordinance. So I think Phil was just misinformed, but he didn't know. That's just my take on it. I haven't talked to Phil at all.
Yeah, I was hoping he might call, but on the other hand, under the circumstances, I'm not sure really that he wants to talk much on the air.
You and I both know that judges and lawyers love precedent, and they love intention of laws and ordinances. And the precedence of Lepardo-Lindsay, plus the intention of was supposed to be the Republican Party, picks the person.
So what do you think is going to happen now? I mean, obviously, a few minutes after council held that meeting Friday afternoon, Mayor Cram put out a statement making it clear he was unimpressed with what council did. What do you think is going to happen next? Anything?
I think they overplayed their hand. It's really ridiculous. I can see maybe if that seat tipped the majority one way or another, but to do this with only one seat is really nasty, and it's really ridiculous, and it makes them look foolish. That's just my opinion personally. And
right.
I spent a lot of time down at City Hall, so I know how people think. I think they overplayed their hand. I think they should have let the party, or at least called a special election in the next couple of months and left the seat empty like they did with Lepardo-Lindsay.
I'm such a simple person that I would have probably just said, hey, it ended in a tie. They counted the votes, they recounted, and we can agree, in this case, in the 6th District, both candidates received the same number of legitimate votes. So how about this? Why don't we go over to the traffic circle there on Court Street, and at noon, or we could actually do it on a live radio program, do it at 11:30 in the morning some morning, and toss a coin, and then whoever wins the coin toss will serve until the November special election. See, I know it's not perfect.
That sounds good, but it's not legal, unfortunately.
No, I know. No, I acknowledge that it's not legal, but I know some people around here who do things every day who aren't legal, and nothing ever happens to them.
Years ago, there was this huge chess tournament for like $500,000, and the two individuals tied for first place. So they have a tie breaks where they play certain games. They lower the amount. They kept drawing, which is a tie. So finally, after the 6th or 7th game, they were in a casino, and they went in the casino, and one guy picked red and one guy picked black. And guess what came up? 00 green.
Oh, my gosh. You know,
so then they did it again. And that way they picked the winner.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your calling and offering some perspective going back to, some years ago when you were on city council.
I was there right in the thick of it. And I remember directly when we argued when Tony kept his seat and he gave up his job. And then the next year when the Democrats the majority, we made it. See, it was a gentleman's agreement. And that's when people used to be gentlemen. Even though we argued, we still had a respect for each other.
Yeah. I miss those days.
And I think the Democrats overplayed their hand. They should have left the one seat. That's just my opinion. That's what I would have done if I was there, and that's what I would have advised them. Of course, they don't ask me.
Well, next time they will.
Well, no, I doubt that. But what I say is that I think this thing isn't over legally. But one thing I want to impress upon your listeners and anybody in that district is when you pass an ordinance or a law, and I always drilled this in my head for the 8 years that I was there, intent of the legislation is huge. Whether it was worded correctly or worded, you can interpret a different way, or, 8 different ways to interpret the same thing. The intent was that party pick the candidate or leave the seat empty and call a special election as soon as you can. This is almost April. I think June would be proper. And leave the seat empty, just like they did for Lepardo and Lindsay.
Well, stay tuned. We'll cover whatever happens. I also, by the way, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised, Mr. Cordisco, that we haven't heard from city Republicans. We haven't heard from city Democrats. We haven't heard from city residents, whether on the south side in the 6th District.
That's the reason why I'm calling.
Yeah, well, thank you.
People called me and said they haven't heard from any Republicans concerning this. And being I'm Republican now, plus I helped write the ordinance and vote on it. I thought that was the person to call.
Right. Well, thank you.
I'm just trying to do what's fair.
All right.
To the people in that district and everything else. Leave the seat empty, have a special election very quickly, and get this damn thing over with and move on.
John Cordisco, thank you so much. I appreciate your calling in.
Yeah, no problem. You know me, I always tell the truth.
Well, as you see it, I appreciate.
I always tell the facts as they were done before.
Yeah, well, I appreciate. You've never shied away from being willing to talk about any issue, whether it's this or anything else. So I appreciate it.
Like I said, I was there. I know all about it. I know the intention, and we'll see what happens.
And by the way, you weren't the one who designed the City Hall chamber either. You didn't put up the 75-foot ceiling. It wasn't you. It was somebody else.
Oh, God, I hate those chambers. You know, some of those seats, Bob, have ashtrays in the back of them.
I know. By the way, when I was there about a year ago, and I was chatting with Jared Cram, the mayor, because they were holding a hearing on the Binghamton Plaza eminent domain thing. Even he pointed out that the ashtrays, and we both shook our heads and said,
"No,
it's time to be renovated. Get this fixed."
I went to the hotel where the City Hall used to be, and I went in the council chambers. You should go over there. They'll probably let you and take some pictures and put them on WNBF website. All wood, all beautiful. The atmosphere is so much different and so much more professional. The council chambers looks like a Woody Allen movie set. It's terrible. I don't. They get awards for designing that. I have no idea how. Oh, it's horrible.
Well, by the way, speaking of that former City Hall, the municipal building, I did go in there, and I can't find the exact date, but shortly before they did the renovations for the apartment, they let me in there, and you're right. Actually, I'll have to repost that at some point because
what a classy place.
It was beautiful.
Oh God, they got marble steps and mahogany railings, and I mean, it gives the place atmosphere. It gives it some class. That way, when you come in, you have a whole different way of looking at things because you're somewhere you think is important, and it is important. Not the crap chambers they got now. Stuff is terrible.
I know. It's bleak.
Oh, the acoustics suck.
Everything about it. You know, I'm not blaming. I know when it was designed in the late 60s, apparently that was the thing. But you look at that entire governmental plaza, City Hall, the county office building, and the state office building. What a bleak snapshot.
I think the plaques to 72.
Yeah.
But I remember when it got torn down. I got out of high school in 74. I went to Central. I remember when it all got torn down. And I remember that big giant sculpture in the parking lot. That got awards.
Oh, yeah.
For what? I have no idea.
I mean, whether you because it was part of Governor Rockefeller's administration that required a certain percentage of any public construction project be spent on art. So they allocated, I can't remember how many millions of dollars.
You know what I call those Republicans? I call them undocumented Democrats.
On the other hand,
feel free to use that.
Yeah,
you don't have to give me credit.
On the other hand, Rocky certainly knew how to express himself to college students at the airport.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I gave him kudos for that. That's probably what I would have done too.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right.
No, but you didn't say he was wrong, though.
No, I didn't say. Well, and let's face it, but based on all accounts, this sounds childish, but I think based on most accounts, he didn't start it. From the news accounts I recall from that day in September 1976, my recollection is the news accounts said some of the SUNY Binghamton students who greeted then Vice President Rockefeller at Broome County Airport were flipping him off to start, so he just responded in kind, I'm told. Well, if you remember years back, I gave an F-bomb to Channel 12, and they put it on the air, so... Yeah, I remember. Great moments in journalism. That was the week Ronald Reagan died. I got more news coverage than Reagan's funeral, poor guy. I felt bad. Well, yeah. But these things happen. You just never know. I'll tell you what, though. We've got another almost 4 years to go of this council. And this is the way they're going to do things. Maybe they ought to reconsider. Because, people see things as people have a deep, deep understanding of fairness.
still. And I think maybe they overstepped. We'll have to see.
Stay tuned. Former Binghamton City Councilman John Cordisco, thank you.
Bye-bye.